What's going on, everyone? My name's Eric, and today on the channel we are going to be rebuilding a guitar. I got a guitar husk right beside me here. It's another BC Rich zombie, and if you remember my video from a little while back where I was talking about like my actual BC Rich NJ zombie, and that was the only BC Rich zombie that I ever saw in person. The only other ones I saw were actually just like pictures of them online and things like that. And then lo and behold, there is another zombie, and I somehow find it, and it is near the city that I live in, which is also pretty crazy because trying to find one, let alone two, is a bit of a pain in itself. So with all that being said, let's put this on the bench and let's rebuild this thing. All right, so I have all of the original wiring here. Now this is just like the regular harness, and the pickups will be soldered to this. But the thing is, when you get a guitar repainted, there is gonna be a little bit of maybe overspray or at least some paint that is going into these different parts that are routed out for the electronics and for the tuner. So what's happening is that when I go to put the volume pot into the guitar here, it's actually kind of getting stuck like this. I'm not able to push it all the way through, and I don't want to force it because I don't want the paint to crack by accident. What I want to do is actually just take a file, just a circular one like this. I'm gonna slowly just kind of put it in this section here and just spin it around and around just to get rid of some of that extra paint or that extra primer that is in this part of the guitar here. Worst case, if I don't want to do this and file it out, I could use a router. Again, if you're using power tools, that might take off more material than you have to, and that might risk actually damaging the finish on your guitar, especially on a section like this. That's something that you don't want to actually redo or respray. So I'm just gonna do this real quick. So after a little bit of sanding, we're still stuck there, and again, if you don't want to keep sanding, what you can do is just switch out some of the pots for some smaller ones. I have a different one here. This one is a little bit skinnier. That one pops in pretty well. So I might just go ahead and find some potentiometers like this and just pop them in. Here we have the BC Rich Platinum Pro Zombie all finished up here. Like, I bought this thing like maybe a year and a half ago. I want to say like February, if not early 2023, and It didn't look like this, and I'll do a whole other video that breaks down like what happened, you know, the story with this thing. Let's keep it short and let's hop right into some specs and features on this guitar. This one has an agathis body. It's a bit of a less expensive wood. It's kind of like for the volume sellers and like the volume production guitar. Very simple electronics layout. We got 2 volumes, 1 tone, and we have a 3-way toggle selector here. We then have 2 BC Rich pickups here. There's no extra fancy wiring. It's just bridge and neck. And yeah, honestly, I just thought maybe let's just get this guitar looking stock. If I do change the pickups down the road, I will definitely do that, and I'll show you, and we'll go through all of that again. We got a licensed Floyd Rose here. Haven't really used this a ton, but by comparison to my other BC Rich with a licensed Floyd, that guitar doesn't really have any tuning issues. And flipping the guitar over, we have a bolt-on design here. We also have a little bit of a sculpted heel in some way. You can kind of see right here. That's just to help out with getting up to the higher frets on the guitar. After playing this guitar for a while, I haven't had any sort of issues of getting up to the higher frets on this guitar. Moving up to the neck, we have a 25.5-inch scale length design, rosewood fingerboard, maple neck. I'm gonna get some other pictures of that as well. 24 nickel frets, and we just got the typical dot inlays here. Again, these Platinum Pro guitars didn't have like the most in-your-face specs or the in-your-face design, you know, especially being a bolt-on, using rosewood, you know, by comparison to the, let's say, the NJ series that had a couple other higher specs on it. But yeah, still looks pretty awesome. We got the locking Floyd Rose nut at the top, regular BC Rich non-locking tuners, but even though this guitar doesn't have locking tuners, the tuning stability on this guitar is pretty good. And again, I've gone through many times on this channel of how to keep your guitar in tune, and regardless of the bridge or regardless if it has locking tuners or not, you just have to do a little bit of TLC, so I will link a playlist so you can learn all of those tips and tricks to keep your guitar staying in tune. And last but not least, it goes without saying that this guitar is strung up with strings from today's sponsor, the String Source. And that's going to do it for the specs and features on the BC Rich Platinum Pro Zombie. So let's just plug this thing in, let's get some isolated guitar tones and hear how this guitar sounds. So after waiting a year and a half and getting this guitar like actually where it is, you looking like factory fresh again and plugging it in for the first time, it was worth it. Like, this is a guitar I've wanted for a very long time, just like the very first Zombie that I got, and obviously wanting a second to go with it. This guitar, honestly is just wicked. It sounds fantastic. Like, even these stock pickups, I don't know what was going on with like the stock pickups in the BC Rich Beast that I had earlier on in the year. Like, they sounded fine, but I don't know what it is. Something about these pickups, they just sounded great, and with the same exact plugin, the same exact tones, and yeah, I don't know, same tuning and everything. This thing just sounds awesome. So I might keep them in, like, and if I change them, I'll let you know, but might just keep it stock for now. This thing still is great, and I think this is like a pretty sweet homage to the original Platinum series from like the 80s. This thing is super sick. It feels good. The neck feels awesome on this guitar as well. It's very thin and very slim. It's a very comfy C-shaped neck. Guitar holds tuning really well, and yeah, it all just kind of checks out, and upper fret axis feels really good here. It feels really good. Of course, this is a very pointy, extreme guitar. Like, this lower horn right here, it does dig into your leg when you're playing it. So if that's not your thing, like, maybe this guitar isn't for you, or maybe this design just isn't for you. And, you know, even like playing this guitar and playing the other BC Rich guitars like on stage that I've done in the past, like, there's a bit of neck dive with it, but you know, if you're just holding the guitar and strumming it and you're just holding onto your guitar while you're playing it live, like, it's gonna be fine. There's not really a lot to write home negatively about this guitar. Sure, it might not stack up in terms of certain features like on the NJ series, but at the end of the day, there's only a couple differences between the two. So again, if you want one of these like BC Rich guitars and maybe you have a certain budget and maybe only certain models from that shape are popping up, hop on and grab it. And especially if you don't like those pickups, you know, like, toss some new ones in. And yeah, these are sweet guitars, and they're made really great. All these 2000s BC Rich guitars that are made in Korea that I've talked about like endlessly whenever I've had a BC Rich on the channel, they've all been fantastic, and this is no exception. This is a sick guitar, and I'm stoked to write some crazy riffs with this thing. When I do, you will all hear it, and you will all see it on this super sweet thing. That's gonna do it for today's video. Thanks for checking it out. If you like all things BC Rich and all things pointy guitars, let me know in the comments below, especially if anything is related to this sick zombie guitar. And if there's anything that you want to see me do with this zombie guitar, or even my other BC Rich zombie guitar, let me know in the comments below as well. If you like the video, make sure you leave a thumbs up. Discount code for today's sponsor, the String Source, down below, as well as a link to get yourself some tools that you can use to fix these guitars just like I do on the channel here as well. If you like what I do, make sure you subscribe to the channel, and if you really like what I do, make sure you hit the notification bell so you don't miss a single video that I upload. Thanks for checking this out, and I'll see you next time.